All right, let's go to Jack, Salt Lake City, first-time caller and LDS. Jack, you're on Heart of the Matter.
Hey, Shawn, how are you?
Good, Jack. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
You don't know me, and but I feel I know you a little bit after watching your show.
You do what?
I feel I know you a little bit after watching your show.
Is my zipper down or what? How do you guys know me so well?
But I will tell you this. You and I have had a little dialogue because my email is sanfranciscojack.jack. So we've had a little bit of dialogue over email. I don't know if you recall.
I don't recall it, but what's going on? What's your comment or question, my brother?
Okay, I've got two questions, so I'm hoping we'll have time to go through this. But an analogy was given to me by a non-denominational Christian about salvation alone by grace. And by the way, I'm active LDS, just so that you all know. And the analogy, was a very simple analogy about the Golden Gate Bridge. And the Golden Gate Bridge bridged that gap between San Francisco and the north there.
Yeah.
And Christ was that bridge, and I thought it was a very appropriate analogy, because without that bridge, you cannot get to the other side. Yeah. And Christ is indispensable.
Yeah.
So then I asked this non-denominational Christian, okay, so now we've got the bridge, how do I get across it? And
do you drive? Do you walk? I mean, you got to put the effort forward to get to the other side.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, so I'm with you. You mentioned walking, and how a Mormon, or how I've been taught in the Mormon church, and how I view our salvation is, my salvation is a relationship with Christ, and He, hand in hand, walks with me across that bridge. But without the bridge, and without Him helping me, I could never, ever get across the bridge.
It's really nice, Jack, but I have to give you the Christian perspective biblically, okay? Biblically, what your Christian said with the bridge, I want to give you what I believe is a better view. And I think
you mentioned that I could walk, right?
I was saying I was finishing what you were going to say. I was not agreeing with that. I was just finishing what I knew your point would be. This is a better analogy, Jack. You're in quicksand, and you're up to your chin in it, and it's sucking you down quick.
I'm with you.
And Buddha walks by and says, this suffering is going to make you better in the afterlife. And Muhammad walks by and says, you're going to have 70 virgins if you bear this. And everybody comes by and says it, and you go under, and you start sucking in that sand, and you are dying. You are gone. There is nothing you can do. You've sunk. And Jesus comes along, and He takes off His robe, and He dives in head first. And He goes down, and He gets beneath you, and He pushes you up. And He pushes you up out of that sand, that quagmire. You are dead. And you come up out on the ground, and you lay there, and striking that ground, you revive to life. That is the analogy. You did nothing. You did no walking, no riding the bike, and no driving the car across the bridge. Jesus pushed you up as a dead man in sin, and when you recognize that relationship with Christ, you will then begin to understand why Christians are so hot against Latter-day Saints when they claim Christianity, but they give these nice little parallels about, he's my elder brother, he takes my hand, we walk together, he expects me to climb the ladder, I get to the rung, I'm not at the top, he pulls me up, all these different things, but it is solely missing the mark of what the Bible teaches. Does that help, at least the Christian perspective?
Well, it does. You in the past have talked about, the limitations of analogies, and no doubt there's limitations. So I'd like to take your analogy and ask a question about it. Let's assume, in your analogy, that I'm in the quicksand up to my neck.
Yeah.
But we haven't gone so far deep that I'm in underneath yet, and he's pushing me up from underneath.
Okay.
And he's reaching out his hand to me and saying, Jack, I am here to pull you out of this quicksand. Do I have a choice to take my hand and reach out and grab his hand?
Yeah, but that's faith.
Now, if I take that action...
That's faith.
And
that is not an action.
That's right. That's
faith.
Right.
That's not an action, and it's not a work. It's faith.
Reaching out my hand to him.
Yeah, but that's a physical analogy you're trying to make for grace. We can't apply those two. They don't translate. But if you're going to really be consistent in your analogy, it is your faith in saying, I will receive what you're offering me, Jesus, because I believe you and what you say. That is an acquisition of him receiving your faith and your trust. That is not a physical work, Jack.
Well, maybe I can, we'll conclude this call very quickly here with this final comment.
Okay.
So you talk about the Hall of Fame of faith, you know, and when Paul goes into Abraham and all these people. Yet, and we know that those people in the Old Testament were saved by grace because the law was never meant to save them anyway.
That's right.
Nevertheless, the law was given. We're all broken against the law. We're even broken against the new law, the law of God.
Even more so.
That Paul talks about. So they were saved by grace in the Old Testament also.
Yeah.
So that, assuming I'm an individual in the Old Testament times,
okay,
you know, God gives me these commandments in the law. You know, if I make a choice not to do my best, at least to do what God has asked me to do, and I know I'm not perfect, and I recognize that, and I know a lot of LDS people, and or it's across all parts of Christianity, where people abuse grace and or abuse works. But in the Old Testament, if I make an active choice to not, you know, at least try and obey the commandments of God, then I get cut off. And you use the scriptures in Romans 11, and then I just kept reading in the chapter, and Paul goes on to say to these guys, you know, the Jews were cut off because of their unbelief.
Right.
And you Gentiles are now under this dispensation because of their unbelief.
Right.
But you need to be careful also and take heed lest you get cut off also. And my question is, I'm sorry I'm taking so long.
No, you're making good points.
Old Testament people who were saved by grace,
right,
if they actively made a choice to just absolutely reject the law, would God still save them?
Okay, reject the law, did you say, or reject the Lord?
Well, the Lord gave the law, so the same thing.
Oh, no, it's not the same thing. No, we are dead to the law. We are dead to the law, Jack. Keep reading in Ephesians and Galatians, and we are dead to the law. In fact, if you live to the... Let me give you an example of the law, okay? And we've done this before on the show. You just talked for quite a while. I want to give this for our audience, too. The law is going to do one of two things. And just imagine, here are the two tablets. We're just going to use the 10 Commandments here.
Perfect.
They do two things for you, Jack. You can look at that law and you can say, well, I obey all of those. I'm doing pretty dang good. And pride comes in your heart, which is a sin God hates.
Agreed.
Okay? Or you look at those commandments and you say, wow, I've broken 7, 2, and 4. I'm a miserable wretch. And so you're in despair. Okay?
Agreed.
The law, you're dead to that law. You live to Christ, who when you look at him, you see life, unconditional love, and hope and promise, because your faith and your righteousness is based in your salvation on him and what he did, not on your actions to follow up or to be worthy of it or anything else.
I love what you're saying. And you talk about adultery in the 10 Commandments. And what does Christ do in the New Testament? He says, hey, I'm not here to do away the law. And I'm telling you that if you think just by obeying the law you're going to be saved, that's not true. But he also took the law, at least the 10 Commandments, to a higher level.
He amplified it.
I don't even want you to think it in your heart.
Yeah, he amplified it.
No, he didn't say abhorrence to me.
No, he didn't say I don't want you to, Jack. He didn't say I don't want you to. He said if you do, you are an adulterer in your heart. And so what he did is he condemned you on that higher amplification.
That's right.
And so your need for him cannot possibly be by any works. It has to be by faith on him, because you, Jack, right now are condemned probably within the past week for what went on in your heart on some matter. It could have been greed, it could have been a lie, it could have been lust, but you have been condemned. So how could it be anything but grace that is going to save you? All grace.
That's exactly what the LDS Church
That is not, Jack. I'm sorry, and this is where, after we go through all these dialogues and stuff, this is why we do the show, because now the fork in the road comes.
Tell me, Shawn, where we don't teach that. Where's our fault?
Where's your what?
Where's our fault in that? You were
I just read a
Mormon.
quote from Joseph Fielding Smith that your salvation is merited by your obedience to the laws and ordinances of the gospel. That's one of your articles of faith. All mankind may be saved by obedience to the laws and ordinances of the gospel. I mean, Jack, that is the biggest lie on the face of the earth. It's completely contrary to the whole Bible.
You know, Shawn,
it's all right, my brother. Listen, it's been a good conversation. I like you. I like the way you talk. I didn't get angry. We love each other. But I think that we were able to bring out some things. Let's talk again.
Okay, well, before you go, I'd like to be a guest on your show in 2011.
Okay, email us and tell us who you are and that you're not an assassin and what you're going to bring, and we'll do it.
Already done that.
All right, Jack, we've kept it on a file, and we'll talk about it.
Thank you, Shawn.
Okay, bye-bye. Pray for Jack. He's on the way.